Thousand Below dropped their new record, Buried in Jade. I know Glory's a massive Thousand Below fan, so I'm just gonna throw the ball over to her because I don't know how to kick this one off. I'm sure Glory liked the record.
I did enjoy the record. I'm gonna start with that. So again, I'm gonna give it the benefit of a doubt because that was the third record in. I'm not even halfway through of the playlist, so I'm just like, fuck. I was really anticipating this record. My expectations were
I know they
higher than
were.
most for records because the last record that they put out, Hell Finds You Everywhere, was absolutely phenomenal. I told James to his face, I said, this is flawless. There's literally nothing wrong with it. I have absolutely no notes. You guys fucking crushed with this record. So I've spent a lot of time with that album. So finally experiencing like a full rollout and as a fan, it's I'm hype as fuck. The singles were really good. I enjoyed them. The last single was a bit weird.
Save me.
Save Me. It was a bit strange as a single. It was kind of like when fucking I was at 21 Pilots, Water Parks when they dropped it was the one, fuck. Oh my God. It was the one where the
Snow
teaser
Globe.
was him. Nope. It was a
Just
slow
kidding.
song. Just kidding. It was like when they dropped Just Kidding
That
as a
song's so
single where it was
weird.
just kind of I don't like that song at
I
all. I
love it
really
though.
don't like it. It's so see, cringe. Again, that's their cringe card for the album. It's like I can't. So, um it was just kind of like one of those where it was like this is a okay, it's fine. I get it. You're showing the different sides of the record, kind of, a taster of what to expect. But I do feel like the record did lean heavier on the lighter side of things,
Mhm.
which is a little disappointing for me because the reason why Hell Finds You Everywhere was so big and impactful for me was because it was heavy and it was that perfect balance, in my opinion, the perfect balance of heavier music with kind of like lighter things. I believe James said in the interview that it was his first time screaming on a record, and that's what he was nervous about. And it just feels like he kind of like backed up a bit, which sucks. He did scream on it a couple times, which was incredible, and the heavier tracks stood out, and I thought they were wonderful. But to me, I needed more. I don't know. It just felt like a very like it felt like they were going on the other side of the spectrum with the last record. They weren't leaning too far into the heavier side. They were kind of just they took it down a couple notches, which is like I'm fine with it, but again, I can't expect every band to stay the same because if they're staying the same, then I'm gonna be like, okay, well you guys are just doing the same fucking. So there's really like no winning, to be fair. Um, I enjoyed the record. I 100% think I need more time with it because I thoroughly believe that this band is like one of they have potential to be like one of the biggest bands out there, like a huge name because I think the vocals, I think the instrumentals, I think just their songs overall are fucking incredible. So I'm not writing this off as it's just okay. I'm 100% sure it's great. It's just my first impression of it felt I was a little disappointed.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, I didn't really have much of an expectation going into this record. Glory's the big Thousand Below fan of the two of us. I liked the last record, although I didn't spend the time with it like Glory did. And I've been checking out the singles, but really nothing more than in my head. Album comes out August 8th. That's about all I was thinking going in. Went in
Mhm.
pretty open minded, and what I honestly gathered was it kind of felt like they did a very nice job of balancing all of the different sonics that kind of happen on this record, because I feel like there are these super heavy brutal moments.
Mhm.
Palace of Dread, shout out that song, it's my favorite song off the record.
Yeah.
There are these more like middle of the road songs, we'll call them, that aren't too heavy. They don't go super into a heavy box, but they're not super like slow or out there in any sense of
Mhm.
the word. And then there's the slower songs, the more out there songs, which are songs like
Yeah.
Save Me and Michelle's song,
Mhm. Yeah.
that kind
Michelle's
of
song.
fit in that box. and it just feels like it's a very nice balance. I hear what you're saying about the previous record being a little bit more heavy and straight, just balls to the wall, kind of across the board. And yes, as the resident one that just wants everything to be as heavy as possibly can, that's my complaint with this record as well. There's not enough heavy moments, and I would have
so good at being heavy. They're so good at it,
and I would have liked to have seen more. But what you get from this record in terms of the heavy is certainly more than I'll take it. But I just think that they do a very nice job of kind of balancing all the different things. The record is very long, both in time and in track listing. So there's a lot of room for them to do a lot of different things on this record, which I appreciate. They didn't shoehorn themselves into any one box. They experimented. They did a lot of different things, and I appreciate that about this record. And I think it's all executed well. I just think it's kind of, honestly, for both of us, kind of like, all right, well, this isn't exactly what I wanted, but listening to the record outside of removing the bias, the album is really fucking good.
It's incredible.
It's an incredibly solid record. It's just like, all right, now I have to listen to it. Now that I've said what I have to say, now I have to go listen to it, having removed those thoughts, saying those thoughts, putting them out in the world, and removing them from my brain. And now I'll go listen to the record again. And like, I was able to still come away with it. Like I said, the album itself, removing my bias, is a really strong record. It is really solid. I love the way it opens with Kerosene. Like I said, Palace of Dread is my favorite song on the record because that is what I'm looking for. There, Save Me, which is a track that Gloria and I, when it was a single, was both like, all right, what the fuck is this? Because the singles all kind of leaned on the heavier side, which again, hence the disappointment. There was a little bit of like, all right, we're going this way, and then the record goes a different way. That's fine. I'm not a huge fan of when bands do that, but I understand. So that's definitely part of where the expectation of the record being heavier comes from, but also just previous albums as well. But Save Me as a single was definitely out of left field, but again, in the context of the record, not to use that phrase, it's
first one.
It's first one though, and we got a lot of records to chat about.
Don't remind me.
It makes a lot more sense in the record, and I think the dichotomy of the two songs, Palace of Dread and Save Me, being stacked on top of each other, makes that song almost make more sense, especially so high in the track listing, because it's like, all right, now we just pummeled you, now we're gonna do whatever the fuck Save Me does, and then pick it right back up with Shake, which I appreciate. I do like the title track as well, Buried in Jade. I think it closes out the record very nice. Los Angeles is a beautiful track. Feel It End, The Quiet and Cold. I do really think the beginning of the record is super strong, and then the closer is very strong. But like I said, this album is really good. Remove the fact that we were expecting something heavier based on the singles' previous albums and just personal bias as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thousand Below is going out on tour. Check the tour dates. Go see them. I will be seeing them.
They're headlining. Peep the dates for sure.